Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for a session on how to accelerate agreement workflows with DocuSign eSignature for Microsoft Power Automate. My name is Malika Arstani, and I'm on the product marketing team here at DocuSign. And joining me today is Mohammed Ali, who's a solution architect here at DocuSign. We have a packed and exciting agenda for you all today. We're going to talk about how and why it's so critical for you to deliver easy-to-use agreement experiences, more specifically on how you can do so with DocuSign eSignature for Microsoft Power Automate. We'll then bring it all to life with a demo, and lastly, open up for some of your questions. But with that, let's jump right in. So why is it that delivering an easy-to-use agreement experience is so critical today? If you think about all the different business units within an organization and all the different tools each of these business units use, it's a lot of tools. Okta actually did a study and found that businesses use roughly 175 tools across their entire organization, which is a ton. And the impact that this has on the user is even bigger. Users can spend up to a whopping 32 days a year switching between those apps, which can really impact productivity and cause a lot of frustration. Just think about yourself. How many tools do you use in a single day, and how sometimes it can be so painful and frustrating to move between them? Interestingly, according to RingCentral, workers actually find that navigating between apps can be more annoying than doing household chores, paying bills, and even trying to lose weight. DocuSign recognizes that there has to be a better way to manage work. And that's why we have invested so heavily building a robust integration ecosystem. With 350 integrations, we enable our customers to connect eSignature to the systems they use on a daily basis, which helps eliminate the manual, cumbersome side of switching between the apps and instead makes work seamless and much more easy. As you think about the steps to create and complete an agreement, every organization needs to prepare that agreement somehow. They all have to get those agreements signed somehow, and they all have to act on or fulfill the obligations of their agreements somehow. And lastly, they need to manage their agreements somehow and somewhere. We call this a company system of agreement. So how can you do all of this with the tools that you're already using every single day? We integrate with various applications across the Microsoft ecosystem. This gives you multiple opportunities to complete the agreement process from end to end by leveraging tools that you use today with DocuSign and Microsoft together. Together, you can do things such as prepare agreements, leveraging Outlook, Word, or Dynamics 365. You can sign agreements with the new Microsoft Teams integration that we announced earlier this year. Then you can act on agreements with Power Automate. And lastly, you can manage all of your agreements with SharePoint or Dynamics 365. I just mentioned all the integrations that we have today at DocuSign for Microsoft, but let's jump right into what we came here to talk about today. And that's delivering accelerated workflows with DocuSign eSignature from our Microsoft Power Automate, and how that helps you to deliver easy-to-use agreement experiences for your employees, customers, vendors, and beyond. Let's dive in a bit deeper into what eSignature for Power Automate can do for you. Let's say, for example, you have prepared and signed an agreement with eSignature. What would be the logical next step for an organization is how you can actually act on it. One of the ways is leveraging eSignature for Microsoft Power Automate. With this integration, you can use Power Automate to automate post eSignature tasks based on the metadata in the agreement, like the field data. You can synchronize files, get notifications, collect data, and much more. You can do it all without code or complex implementations. A couple of examples where you can use this across your organization would be things like employee onboarding, where once a new hire signs the offer letter, you can set up workflows to automatically create an account in Microsoft 365. Or if you're managing an IT service request, once the agreement is signed, you can kick off provisioning processes immediately after it's signed. With eSignature for Power Automate, you eliminate the manual, cumbersome process that comes after the agreement is signed and save you a lot of valuable time. And the connector as it is today is fantastic. It extends all the Microsoft and partner products in Power Automate today and allow you to electronically approve, sign, utilize all of DocuSign's capabilities. Where it really helps today is with sending DocuSign templates via workflow, like I mentioned with onboarding, that involves an employee, a manager, and the payroll team. What also is great is we can listen for real-time status updates. So anytime something is signed or completed, you'll be notified in Power Automate and can action the next steps of that process right when it's completed. So there's about 15 different DocuSign actions and triggers that are available today. And I just gave you a few examples of how you can use eSignature for Power Automate, but there are truly hundreds, if not thousands, of unique use cases. Use cases spanning all across the front office from sales and service, all across the back office with HR, procurement, finance, and legal. The areas that we can provide value in really underpin an entire business. And coupled with Power Automate, the Microsoft partnership and DocuSign, that end-to-end digitization and automation becomes really powerful. I'd like to briefly tease a specific use case for you all that Mohammed will show in just a moment. Let's walk through this specific use case. Preparing a sales agreement using Microsoft Word managed centrally in SharePoint. Once it's ready to send, a simple status change on the agreement triggers a Power Automate flow, sending it to the customer. The customer then reviews and signs on their mobile app using DocuSign. And then once it's completed, the document is stored in the relevant SharePoint location, utilizing DocuSign agreement actions, and the operations teams is instantly notified via their team's channel. I'll hand it off to Mohammed right now to bring this use case to life and give you a little bit more detail. Mohammed, over to you.
Thank you. So we've got a jam-packed and exciting demo for today. I'm going to take you through that exact example of sending a quote out from SharePoint, having it being triggered and then signed by the customer on their mobile device, and then automatically archiving it based on business rules, and sending a Microsoft Teams notification. Now, all that seems like a lot of steps, but I'll show you how straightforward that is using Power Automate and DocuSign together. I'll also leave you with some assets that you can go away and build this yourself very easily as well. But let me show you what that looks like. I'll demo it to you, and then I'll show you how I've actually built it in the background. I'm in SharePoint. Here's my quote. I've got that quote right there. It's in a draft status at the moment. And what I'd like to do is change that status, so to say that it's actually ready to send out to be signed. So we'll change the status over to ready for signature. Now, by doing that, it may take 10, 15 seconds or so, but by doing that, that will trigger a process within Power Automate to automatically send that document off for signing. From there, the person will receive it on any device. All they need is a mobile phone, or all they need is an email address and a browser in order to sign the document. That's quite powerful. They don't need to log on to DocuSign or anything like that. But DocuSign's tracking all that information in the background to prove that you're the one who sent it to them. They're the one who signed it. This is their IP address. This is their location. All that information is being captured automatically in the process here. And that person will receive an email, and then they'll be able to sign off on that document as well. So I'll just mirror my phone at the moment, and we can see that there. So I've just received an email now. I'll click on the link on my phone that I'm mirroring, and you'll see I've just received an email from the Tally organization. I'm the customer. I click the review document link, and it launches into that quote, that Word document quote, but then I can provide my consent to use electronic signing. And then what you'll see is it's converted that document to look great on my phone. So if I untick the mobile friendly option, that's what it would originally look like. And that's a horrible document to kind of try and review. You have to pinch and zoom to read every single word. So we just convert that to look great on your phone. Scroll down, click the sign option, and then add my signature. Now, of course, this is just a representation of your actual signature. It doesn't need to match the way your handwritten signature looks like. What we're doing here is capturing A, your consent to use electronic signing, and B, all the evidence in the background. So like I mentioned before, your IP address, location, timestamps, that's more important than the way it looks on the screen. From here, I click adopt and sign, press next, and then just press finish. And what that will do is that will take the document, automatically route it to where it's meant to go, and then send that Teams notification as well. So that Robert Brown, being my customer, has received a notification saying that process has been completed. If I go into my executed agreements folder, which is the business rule that I applied, and I'll show you how I created that, but I said any completed quotes need to be sent off to this executed agreements folder. And you'll see a few seconds ago, an update was made here. I click on the link, and that's my document right there. We can download it, but essentially that's the document right there. I'll just open that again. There we go. I'll just launch that into here. There we go. So that's the signed document right there. I'll click back. And we can see that what you also get is a certificate of completion. And what that is your legal certificate to prove that this transaction occurred. The person who's signed it, this is the signature they've used, the IP address, timestamps, location, all that information is automatically captured for me. And we've selected to send this back into SharePoint as well. So everything is stored back into your single source. Right. Now that completes that process. The operations team also want to be notified of any completed quote so that they can process it further. Now, if I go into my Microsoft Teams, into the channel for the operations team, you'll see that they've just received notification at 3:20 at this time at the moment. And you'll see here the status, the subject, who it was sent to, and then they can click on a link which takes them to the completed document as well. So they can click on the link and then they can launch into it and actually view it within DocuSign. So you can make it so that they have to put their credentials in, but I've already logged in beforehand. So basically, there you go. So there's the notification, there's the document, they can download it, they can view all the details, all the history they need through that envelope management area. So that's the demo right there. That's how it would look like end to end. Now let me show you how I set it up. So step one is capture all the information that you need to from your DocuSign account. So if I go to my admin area, create an integration key. Now, if you're not familiar with this, I'll take you through it quickly, but it is the standard process for DocuSign to connect to any other application at an API level. And this is required just for the custom connector. So the pre-built connector, there's for Power Automate, you don't need to do this. But under the apps and keys area in my settings, you'll see I've created one beforehand for Power Automate. What you do here, and I'll show you my cheat sheet actually. What you do here is, this is the information that you need for a custom connector, your account ID, the host, which is this one here, the base URI, the base URL, which you can capture from within the actual app itself. So if I go down and go into here and then click edit, then we can start capturing that information there. So that's all available to me here. The integration key, if I go into here, I've got the integration key as well. That's there. Now you select authorization code grant, create a secret key, and that will give you the secret key password that you paste into there. And then there's a redirect URL. So this is actually generated, and you have to enter it into here. This is actually generated by Power Automate. Now I've run this numerous times and it's always the same redirect URL is generated. So I'll normally just copy and paste that in there if I'm creating a new integration key. But really, if it does change for any reason, you can just come in and paste the new redirect URL directly into there. These are some of the other ones that you'll need when you're setting up the custom connector as well. But that's essentially it. You've got all the information you need here. You've set up your integrator key, you click save, and then that's pretty much it from a setup point of view from DocuSign. From here, we can go in to our flows within Power Automate. Now, before I jump into the actual flows, I'll show you how I created that custom connector that that I'm using here. Now the custom connector allows me to access the entire API for DocuSign. So you imagine, you know, an onboarding example where you want to send a template out, an onboarding template, and then pre-fill the data, say their address and other details from SharePoint or from another source system like Dynamics, for instance. You can do that just using this functionality. Or in this example, all I'm doing is sending an envelope out. So sending the document that's in SharePoint and then sending that out. So I'll edit the one that I've created and then I'll walk you through the steps of how I've actually done that. Step one, and what we'll do here is we'll actually look at it side by side. So this is the best way to set it up. Marry them up side by side. And then you can quickly see here, this host is this host here, the base URL is that base URL there. Go to the next section, select OAuth 2.0, generic OAuth, put your client ID and client secret in, and that's essentially your integrator key, integration key, and secret key there. Add in the authorization URL and token URL, that's the standard ones that are there. Refresh URL is that your refresh URL there. And then signature extended, which means this token, once it's authenticated, is good for 30 days. And it'll just keep authenticating itself and you know, resetting that 30 days every time it's kicked off. So that's an easy way to set that up. And then once you click save, it'll generate that redirect URL, and you'll see here that's the same one that I've got there. If it does change, copy and paste it back into the integration key. That's pretty much it there. For that one, what I'd normally do here is once I've set that up, I'll actually create a test and I'll make sure that connection works. So then I can create a new connection just to confirm that that connection works and there's no issues with it. So that's kind of step one, make sure your connection is working, and then add the action into there, which is you're sending an envelope option. So you'll see that pop-up just came up and then it went away. Now, if this was the first time you've done this, what would normally happen is you'd be presented with credentials to enter in. You enter in your credentials for a generic user, a system sender essentially. So you set that up within your DocuSign account, use that here, and then that will be the person that's it'll be sent on behalf of, basically. So it'll be sent by that system sender. Because this is a service level integration, basically. So we've set up our connection. We finished with security. Let's come back to definition. Now, definition is where we add in actions. So the actions here, so I've got one here that I've created, is sending a document to sign. That's the operation ID. And that's essentially the action that you'll see within your flow. That's what you'll be using. Now, how does it work? You essentially just import a sample in from your REST API call. So I can import that in and then create a new one there. But what I'll do here is I've started a new one here. I can take you through the process of what that would look like if I was to create a brand new action. So I've just put an example as a name there. But let's say I needed to import that sample in. So this is an important step, but it's really powerful. I'll import that in. And then what you can see here is all I'm doing is saying this is a post call. And what I'm doing here is I want to post in the body of a JSON call. The JSON call is my REST call to send an envelope out. That's essentially this one here. This one here, basically. So what I'm looking at here is my JSON call. I can copy and paste that directly into there. And where did I get this from? So this is where I mean, DocuSign is a treasure trove of information when it comes to APIs. I'll show you some examples of where you can really access this information from and get the most out of that. So number one, have a look at this article here. This will actually show you, and this is a blog that I created a little while ago on the DocuSign website. Just look this up. This is the step-by-step process for creating that custom connector, everything you need, plus that REST API call to send the envelope out. So everything that I'm talking about here, I've actually gone through in detail here. So I highly recommend you just go through this, this is the code that you can also copy direct from here. If you wanted additional examples, our developer website has a host of REST API examples. But if you look for a pro tip, definitely download our Postman collections. This has ready to use examples that you can just utilize. So I've already downloaded this beforehand in my Postman client. And you can see here, there's examples, create an envelope, copy and paste that out, and you're ready to go. But not just that, you can do a whole host of things here around templates, tabs, which is the custom document fields that you can pre-fill, for instance. So you can get really creative here and essentially access everything in the API. So if you think about DocuSign, DocuSign's entirely built on our own API. So there's a lot of things that you can do. Think about SMS authentication, ID verification, bulk sending, all these kind of features that you can access via the API. And you can just by a simple copy and paste of this into the action. And then that becomes a step that you can access through your Power Automate. Rightio. So once you've got that, we copy and paste the rest of it in. So I can copy and paste this, and this is just an amalgamation of my account ID plus my base URL. That's what I'm accessing right there. The header is essentially this one here, like that. And then I can import that in. So what that will do is that will import it in there. It'll import all the information that I need, the body, for instance, and the content type. All that information is available there. Now, I'll show you exactly what that looks like within my flow. So that's essentially it. You set that up, you can click save, and you're pretty much ready to go. You've got your action, you've tested your connection works. Now, from within your actual flow, so that's that done there. Send an envelope when a status changes. So that's the first flow that I've set up to automatically send the envelope out. I click edit there. And what this is essentially, triggering it off when the status changes on a file. And it's just some steps. This is all standard Power Automate stuff, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but I'm just putting a check here to say, is it sent for signature? Is that the status? Yes. Then go in, grab the file content. This is an important step as well. You have to convert the document into base64 format. So this is how you do that. There's a function called base64. You can see that there. And then you basically use the previous step, which is that get file content step, which is that one there, and you just put it into there basically. And that's pretty much it. It converts it to base64, and that's just the format that's required from DocuSign. Now, this last step is that custom action that we created. Now, if you look at it, this is all the steps that was there in my actual call. So if I look at, say, base64, all that information there, file extension, document ID, name, order, that's all appearing here, but as fields. So order, file extension, the name, the order there. So that's all available to me, but it's all nice as fields. It's not code anymore. And the advantage here is because Power Automate understands the schema, you can easily add additional documents by clicking add new item, and then you'll have the option to add a second document in and just adding in the details around that. Now, the second one is the signer. And again, I've just put in the signer email and the signer name from SharePoint, so they're dynamic. Again, I can add in a new item, and that becomes the second person who's going to sign it. So you can see how powerful this is. I've only imported one REST API call from Postman, but you can apply this to many, many different examples. So you imagine an onboarding example where the first person signing it might be the employee, and the second person might be the hiring manager, for instance. You don't have to import another API call, do any of that kind of stuff. It's the same one for that. You can have 10 people signing it. So it's really quite versatile. And there's zero code anymore. So the code's set up once, and then for the user who's using Power Automate, this is a pretty user-friendly approach. So that's really, really cool. I love using that functionality there, because it's utilized now, and it becomes like a it's almost like a pre-built connector now. And that's quite versatile. So that's the example of sending the document out. What I'd like to do next is to show you the action after it's signed. So there's two actions. Number one is archiving the document, and I'll show you that at the end actually. But the one, because we're at this screen at the moment, is sending the Microsoft Teams update. And this doesn't require any custom connections or anything like that. There's none of that required. So all you're doing here is using the pre-built Power Automate connector for DocuSign. I'll click edit and I'll show you what that is. And it's basically that trigger. So DocuSign can listen in to any status changes for an envelope from Power Automate, and we're listening for the status to be completed. Once the status is completed for that sales quote, we get the document. That's just a step we need to do. And then from here, we're sending off a post to Microsoft Teams. Again, this is all standard functionality. I've just putting in my own tailored notification. It'll be the subject, the envelope status, and then the envelope completed. So that's exactly what we saw in Teams. So if we look at Teams at the moment, that's the exact notification that we saw there. And I've just set that up here. So you can see there, I didn't have to do anything. It was all 3 or 4 steps and you're pretty much done. And that Teams notification to a channel is automatically set up right there. So that's the Teams notification. Now the final one is the archiving. Now I could have just added a step in there to archive it to a specific location. But what is really exciting is what's called agreement actions. Now agreement actions is the ability to apply business rules within DocuSign to archive it. So in this example here, I've created the business rule to archive that quote from Power Automate, and I'll show you what that looks like. And the reason why I've done it here is this gives the power back to the business users or the business admins. You're not reliant on the Power Automate experts to make changes every time an archiving location needs to change, every time a naming convention needs to change, every time a trigger needs to change around archiving. It can all be done autonomously by the business team. And this is how they do it. They create a rule, they create a condition, and you'll see that the condition that I've set is anything sent by that special integration user, that system sender that's created for Power Automate. That's my trigger. Again, you can have different triggers. So is it based on a specific custom field value, a recipient, a template is selected? It could be a quote template, for instance, put it in a quote location. And then from here, we decide, what are we going to do? Are we going to archive it? Are we going to export it to a spreadsheet, for instance? Start a CLM workflow. So if you're not familiar with CLM, very, very powerful from a contract preparation, negotiation, and management point of view. And we can kick that off directly from here as well. But in this example, we're going to store it in SharePoint, and we're going to provide this location here. So we can tailor the exact folder path that it's going to, and then you can tailor the file name. So if I click plus here, there's all these variables that are available to me. Document name, sender name, all this information I can use. And that's essentially what's available to me there. So this is a way that you can very easily build archiving solutions directly from DocuSign without much technical knowledge or skill set. And this is quite powerful. This becomes the agreement automation platform, if you think about it that way, within DocuSign. That fits into whatever overarching process you might have with Power Automate. So we've set up the integrator key. We've done the custom connector, agreement actions I've showed you, and then that Microsoft Teams notification that was sent out. I'll leave you with a couple of DIY assets. So that step-by-step guide that I showed you, definitely something you should be looking at if you're looking to create that custom connector. That'll just get you up and running very, very quickly. It's a treasure trove of information on our developer hub. And of course, that pro tip I was talking about before, the Postman collection, it has some really specific and great examples that you can just copy and paste and use straight away. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mohammed. Awesome to see a live example of such a powerful use case. As we close out our session today, I'd love to give you a sneak peek into what our teams at DocuSign are working on for you in the next year. Here you'll see a list of Power Automate enhancements that we're currently working on to bring to you in the next year. There are things such as create envelope action, which use triggers from your favorite apps and services to add documents and recipients to an envelope and send for signature. We're also working on things like add all envelope statuses, update the envelope enhancements, support anchor text and autoplace, custom field data merging, as well as enhancements with bulk send. A lot is being worked on, and hopefully this triggers some ideas for you and how your business can further your agreement processes with Power Automate. Let's open it up for some Q&A. Thank you all so much for tuning in and populating the Q&A chat throughout the session, but I'm going to go ahead and try to find the first place for us to get started. But please continue to populate the Q&A window so that we can get as many of your questions answered before we close out today. All right, a good place to start. Okay, this is a great one. Will DocuSign be adding capabilities to the out-of-box connector? So yes, as I mentioned, we're working on developing enhancements such as the ability to create new envelopes, merge data from document and envelope fields, support anchor text, and for auto tagging. So all of the lists that I showed previously, all of the items in the list that I just showed previously are enhancements that we're hoping to bring within the next year. All right, let's see. Oh, another great question specifically for our federal and public sector customers. Is the Power Automate connector available in GCC and GCC high environments? So the DocuSign connector works currently in GCC environments, but actually in 2022, we will be approved in GCC high. But I did want to note, this doesn't apply to custom connectors, so please do keep that in mind. Oh, another great question about the out-of-the-box connector. When should we be using the out-of-box connector versus building a custom connector? So the DocuSign connector for Power Automate offers basic features and functionality, but if you have a highly customized workflow or need to parse field level information, you will need a more granular level of control, and a custom connector would be best suited for you. But if there's a specific example or question that you have in mind, please do reach out to us and we'll get you a more catered answer to your question. All right, I think we have about just a minute left, unfortunately. So one last question. This one actually seems pertinent to the broader audience as well. So I'll go ahead and answer this. But if we didn't get to any of your questions, we'll drop a link in the chat so you can submit your questions after the session as well, and we'll get back to you. But the last question of the day is, how do I get started with using Power Automate? Very great question and pertinent to everybody on the call. To get started, find the DocuSign connector in Power Automate itself, log in or sign up for DocuSign on your account, and you can get started right away. Or more additional support. Our support site has a lot of detailed documentation for installing and configuring your Power Automate connector. So I encourage all of you from beginner to advanced to go check out our support site for that additional information. You just have to search Power Automate and you'll see all of the relevant information. All right, I think that's everything. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. I hope you learned a little bit more about how you can accelerate agreement workflows with DocuSign eSignature for Microsoft Power Automate. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you again.